to be on.
That's exactly the framework you want people to have. Like, we weren't done before, so we're not trying to go back to something. We're trying to go into the future. We want to build on and be better than things were before. And certainly for so many people for whom things are so challenging and in some instances just stagnant, like the inability to progress at all, let alone, you know, going backwards. So I think that that's an important thing to be thinking about, you know, in the context of this election, and then figuring out, like, well, what are the things that they're talking about that excite you, that motivate you, that not only would motivate you to go vote, because I think we all just need to vote because, I mean, for real, but what are the things then that you want to stay engaged on and you know, kind of see through to the finish. So I don't know what you're, you know, seeing and hearing. I'd be, you know, curious to know both what you're doing out there in terms of trying to get people in, more people engaged in the process. I'm happy to hear that you feel inspired by all of your peers and what you're seeing. I am too, frankly, in terms of the number of people out there. But what are you kind of seeing and hearing, and, you know, what are you all, what's the change you want to see?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think I have a really engaged peer group, so I stay inspired because if there's something that I don't know about, I am sure to have had a friend who's like, hey, let me get you up to date on this prop, on whatever this is. And so I'm grateful for that group because it really does speak to, as a generation, how much we're really paying attention this election. I feel like midterms was a great practice run of what it means to really pay attention to the importance of every position in government. But I think the major task that so many of us have been talking about is, how do we, exactly like you're saying, turn our passions into policy? So we've seen in a summer in which there has been over 100 days of continued protest, which speaks to the sentiment of young people. And we know very much that it is not about, like you're saying, the election being an end date, but a start date. And so trying to figure out not only how we translate that to our ballot, but what does it look like to be in collaboration with an administration? Because I think that's something that we haven't been given over this past 4 years, to be in active collaboration, to feel like we've been heard, to feel like we can help be a part of the process of holding people accountable. And I've been talking to people, whether it be so many college students whose plans have shifted because they're no longer either on campus. And I'm inspired because the amount of detail that they have in terms of really understanding what all of their options are and in galvanizing their own communities has definitely spoken to the fact that people are taking this extremely seriously.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see, you know, my God, it's like awful to see the lines that are out there, but also it's amazing to see people being so determined. And I think that, you know, to the point about voting specifically and as the initial step, it's like now knowing what all your options are, and knowing that, like, you can vote early and do it when it's convenient for you, because you do have a lot of things going on. And, you know, going to iwillvote.com so that you can get information if you haven't figured out, you know, getting registered and, you know, and all of that yet. But making a plan, I think, is really important because so many things are going on. Also, just not leaving it to chance, because, you know, there is something almost ceremonial, or there's an excitement of voting on election day. You know, I've always loved to do that, but you just don't know what's going to happen. And so don't wait till the last minute if you can avoid it. And, you know, don't leave it to chance. Your car breaks down and then you can't get to the polls, and, you know, you really wanted to cast your vote. And so something that we're telling people to do is to really make a plan and vote early, you know, if they can. And I just think, you know, the other thing I'm curious about with you is what you're hearing is motivating for people to actually go and cast their ballot, because I'm still getting questions like from people who say, what do you say to people who think their vote doesn't matter? You know, what do you say to people who may not be so feeling engaged? And so I'm wondering what, particularly among your peers, as you're going out and doing this work, what are you seeing and hearing that's motivating to people, or that's working to encourage people to get out there who maybe weren't thinking about it at first?
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly what you referenced of saying there's a lot of information saying, okay, our votes don't count the same. How many electoral votes do we have per population? There's a lot of rhetoric out there that can be extremely discouraging, but I think that is exactly why I've seen my peers vote, is because they'll take that issue at hand and be like, no, but that's why we vote. The idea that our votes may not count the same is precisely why I'm going out to vote, to ensure that they're representatives. We know this is a huge year. It's our census year. And so much is on the line about who's in power right now, helping define what our future looks like, from districting and redistricting to ensuring that people's votes are reenfranchised. I know I don't have to tell you this, but it's definitely something that's been a kind of public sentiment, is that rather than stopping with the issue at hand, being like, well, we have an opportunity, whether it be through exactly this campaign, whether it be through people that they're voting for down ballot. They've really taken to heart the idea that we can't just identify the problem, but be a part of the solution and view it as a 365-day type of work. Election day is one of the many days that we have to be engaged. And you already start talking about just kind of early voting and the long lines that we've been seeing. And even one of my questions as somebody where I'm early voting, we have our plan in place, but we've seen that disproportionately the people that are being affected are of our brown and black communities in terms of the lines that we're waiting in. And a lot of households, whether it be a monolingual household, whether it be one young person helping get a lot of the information, only adds to how overwhelming election day can feel, or that voting can feel. And I'm wondering if you have any tips for us about really how to walk into this space feeling like empowered voters, what resources we need to be accessing to make sure that we know what we need to know as we walk, whether it's in person or mail-in or whatever that may be.
Yeah, I think that one of the benefits, so many places do have absentee ballot voting, mail-in voting, and in many places, maybe even most, and you can get this information at iwillvote.com for your own locality, whether you can still do that, and I think in many places you can. That's one thing to look at, as a way of voting, particularly, as you said, for someone for whom maybe English isn't their first language, or someone, it's the first time that they're voting. The process itself sometimes can feel intimidating, putting aside the voter suppression, which I'll get to in a second, but the process itself can feel, for some people intimidating. So I think exploring that option of mail-in voting is a good one, because then you can get your ballot, you can kind of sit at the table, the family can do it together, if you don't, in many places, the ballot is in different languages. And so, it's accessible in that way. But if you don't have it in your language, you can have somebody translate for you if you do the mail-in and get it early. So that's one thing I would suggest as a resource, because the thing with mail-in voting is you can either, in most places, mail it in, or you can just fill it out at home and then take it to a drop box that's convenient, located near you, or drop it off at the county, government. And so all of that information is on iwillvote.com about mail-in voting. But the other piece is, like you said, about, the ways that people are trying to intimidate people from not voting, the ways that people are trying to put obstacles in people's way to suppress their vote. And I think that the main thing is that one, that's wrong. Okay. It's not right. We need to fix that. We will not fix that with this government, because it is this government that is perpetrating it. And so let's be clear about that. To the extent you think that's wrong, this government's perpetrating it. We need to vote them out. And that's an up and down the ballot issue, because those rules are set at the state level by the Secretary of State. Things get signed off on by the governor. So those down ballot people matter too, even on this issue. But because we're dealing with that, I think about it in two ways. One is they're trying to do it because they know our power. Okay? Right. So be clear. We have power in our community. We are powerful people. They are trying to suppress our vote because they know our power. So we need to, one, just, be determined, because we do have the ability to vote, vote for change and vote for a difference. But the other thing is, honestly, I think about what Michelle Obama said, which was, look, you just need to be ready if you might have to stand in line all day if you decide to go vote in person. And she had me dying. She's like, put some comfortable shoes on, put your mask on.
I have my kit ready.
Right? Your voting kit, right?
Yes.
Just be ready, have your kit, because you may have to stand in line for a while if you go and vote in person. I mean, back to the point about early voting, it may or may not be the case. You may be able to do it at a more convenient time. Well, we just have to be ready. And I'm glad to hear that you have your kit. Everybody needs to do that. We cannot. I was so inspired. I don't know if you've seen some of the videos of people. They're sad on the one hand, showing these long lines, but people who are literally determined. They're like, we've been out here all day. We're not leaving till we cast our ballot. And
yeah, I've seen them.
Very inspiring to see. So I don't know. You said that you have your kit. What else are you advising people to do in this moment to get out there vote?
Well, I know, just like you're saying, we have to be ready. The goal is always to have had 2 plans. So we're taking advantage of early in-person voting. And for us, that really opens up in our county in about a week. But our goal was to make sure we're there first day. So if for any reason something happens, we know we can go the second day. We know that we have time and options. And even what really inspired me was my primary experience, because voting in primaries, we made a point of early voting, and we went to our polling location in which many elderly people, many people with different abilities chose this location because it's accessible, only to get there and none of the poll workers knew how to turn on the machines, and they didn't have the proper resources. And so that experience, I think, only really further emphasize the importance of not only having one plan, but having plan 2. And like you're saying, going to I Will Vote and taking advantage of all these resources to know that I have numbers to call if that happens. There are people to call, because so many people structure the whole day around it. And fortunately, there was another location that we were able to go vote in. But just having that experience, it's something that feels like it should be so seamless, and seeing how many people were affected. Really, I think, emphasize the importance of the kit. So my kit has everything. It has snacks.
And it has a plan and a backup plan.
Of course. If I have an umbrella, just in case the rain decides to pop out.
That's a good one. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, the umbrella. That's
and
right. That's a good one.
Well,
I hope we will, have everybody be as planful and as excited and as vote nerdy as you. This is so fantastic. Okay, I want to ask you one more thing.
Yeah.
So just, there's sort of the ups and downs of all of this last year, but the last 4 years. And right now, I think people are both feeling the excitement of maybe being able to turn the page, but also the anxiety of like what we're seeing in the Supreme Court and, with COVID and all of what's going on. You're so great about both using your platform to educate and inform, like you're doing around the voting, but also to uplift. And so let's end with some Yara inspiration. What are you feeling joyful and hopeful about right now? You have such a wonderful energy and enthusiasm. What are you feeling hopeful and joyful about?
Thank you. It's so funny because we've been reflecting on this a lot as a family. And I think we have very parallel family situations of having families involved in civil rights from really our entire lives, and growing up with that being such a predominant conversation. For me, my grandfather was somebody who really, I think, was a community organizer and fought for equity. And the reason I bring this up is that I have this concept of indebted gratitude. There are times where we feel overwhelmed, but knowing that within my own family and within so many families that I have never even talked to, there have been people that have dedicated their lives to the freedoms that I'm lucky to experience right now. And so there are 2 feelings that I go between. There are times where I wake up naturally feeling energized, ready to take on the world. And there are times where you're right. I'm looking at these hearings for the Supreme Court. I'm looking at what's happening in Georgia and all these long lines. And I go back to that indebted gratitude, whether it be thinking of Congressman Lewis's legacy, who was, 17 when he became an integral member, an integral part of the civil rights movement. And so I think for me, what's been motivating is our history. My only one of my tattoos is apostrophe 63 for just what a pivotal year it was.
Year that was, yeah.
In the civil rights. And so I take our history as something to be joyful about. I take how far we've come and the fact that many people, we can turn back just one generation and know people that have literally fought for our right to vote. My Nana, when she turned 18 as a Black woman, wasn't guaranteed her right to vote, and I had a voter registration party when I turned 18. But that's the difference of one generation. And so I'm looking forward to continuing that legacy, and it feels like this is an opportunity to do so.
I love that. And it's just so right, because the lesson too, I think that it sounds like you've taken in, is that we have to pick up the baton with each generation, because, you know, as so many people who are, you know, our heroes have said, these rights are fought and won and defended with every generation. The job is not done. It's never done. And so that for each of us to pick it up and carry it forward is so critically important. And to remember not just what you're voting for, but who you're voting for. You know, whether it's your ancestors, or the people who are just counting on us, who are literally, you know, struggling every day, who are counting on us to make a difference and help them make a difference in their lives. And so, you know, I keep that always present too.
I was going to ask you the same question, because, you know, of course, we've been talking about civic engagement for this election, but civic engagement has been your whole career, has been your whole life. And so what is it that keeps you inspired?
You know, I have to say it is the lesson. You know, it's the people, for sure. Like, we grew up with a mother who, there's so many things on a different conversation, a much longer conversation we can have, that our mother taught us. But the fact is that she taught us from day one about our sense of responsibility and duty. And so it's very much the way that you talk about having grown up. And, you know, she would say to us things like, to whom much is given, much is expected, because she expected us to do something in life, but she expected us to do something with it. Right? Like, and so she would also tell us, you know, you two girls, you may be the first to do many things, the first this, the first that, knowing the time we were growing up in. But she would always say to us, but you better not be the last. And so there's a sense of responsibility and duty that kind of motivates me, similar, you know, to you. The people, like, I do very much feel a sense of, like, people are counting on us to, like, not tire. And you mentioned John Lewis. I think about John Lewis. I think about RBG, you know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Look how long and how hard they fought for us. You know, I get motivated by that, which is, it's on us. Like, we need to carry that piece forward. And so you know, all of those things inspire me. I think as you go on your journey, because obviously I've been on this journey a while, I'm inspired to see someone like you, you know, on the front end of your journey. You just have to remember to celebrate sometimes your victories. Sometimes you're so in the fight, which is important, that you never stop to take in the moments when you actually have a victory. You should do that. And then just surround yourself with people who support you and can inspire you, because there are days when you just feel like, oh my God, like, really? Like, oh, has anything changed? You know, you just have those moments. And I have friends and family and mentors who have, you know, continued to inspire me and support me on this journey, you know, without whom there would be many a day where I, you know, might just decide not to get out of bed. So that's how
support networks are essential.
Yes, they really are. So make sure you surround yourself. I can tell you already have. This will be our, you know, closing note. We'll tell people to make sure they go to iwillvote.com. And if you asked earlier, if they want to join the campaign, we still have 15 days, and that's a lifetime of politics. They can text WIN, WIN, to the number 30330. WIN to 30330. But I was just
I'll link to that.
Yes, and I was just going to say about you. You are such a star in every way, and just in every way. And so when I also think about what motivates me and what keeps me going, it is honestly people like you. So you just keep shining your brightness on everyone and everything around you, and then I will feel like, yes, I'm gonna keep fighting till my last days, but that, you know what, the future is all right. It's in good hands.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm so inspired by you from when I got to sit down with you at lunch all those years ago, and so happy we could connect now.
Me too, me too, me too. And I will look forward to us seeing each other at some point when, you know, it's all safe for us to get back together again, and hopefully in celebration.
Yes, that is the goal. I look forward to celebrating.
All right. I'll see
Thank you for your
you
time.
too. You too. Bye bye.
Bye.